So back in 1919, the world was trying to pick up the pieces from the deadliest war in history. The goal? A lasting peace. But, in redrawing the map, the winners of World War I might have just accidentally drawn the battle lines for the next one. Let's dig into how that all went down.
Okay, so picture this. It's 1918. The guns finally go quiet all across Europe. The most brutal war humanity had ever seen. It's over. But as all that smoke clears, it reveals a world that's just in ruins. And a massive question that, honestly, nobody really had a good answer for. I mean, really, think about it. How do you rebuild a world that's been completely shattered? How do you create a peace that guarantees that this kind of devastation never, ever happens again? That was the huge, monumental task facing the victorious Allied powers. So their big attempt to answer that question kicks off in January 1919. You've got representatives from 32 different nations all gathering at the super fancy Palace of Versailles right outside Paris. This was it, the Paris Peace Conference. The fate of the entire post-war world was going to be decided right there, in those halls.
Now, on paper, the big goal was to build a lasting global peace. You had idealists like U.S. President Woodrow Wilson really pushing for this. But for a lot of the others, especially France and Great Britain, who had lost so much, there was another goal that was just as important, making Germany pay. And at the end of the day, the Treaty of Versailles, that became the main tool for doing just that.
Let's be clear, this treaty was really designed with one main thing in mind: to systematically weaken Germany. The whole point was to make sure the country could never again be a threat to Europe, and they did it by hitting them in 4 key areas. So the treaty just hammered Germany from all sides. First, territory, boom, all its overseas colonies were gone. Second, military. Its armed forces were slashed down to almost nothing. Third, moral. They were forced to sign the infamous war guilt clause, basically saying, yep, this whole thing was our fault. And finally, economically, well, they were handed the bill for the entire war. And when I say the military restrictions were drastic, I mean it. Germany went from having one of the most formidable armies in the world to a force of just 100,000 men. That's basically a glorified police force. And their powerful air force? Gone. Completely disbanded. They weren't even allowed to have one. But, maybe the most crushing blow of all was the financial one. There was this little thing, Article 232, in the treaty, and it said Germany had to pay reparations for all the damage caused by the war. And the price tag? Wow. It was absolutely staggering. Get this, $31 billion. Now, in 1919 money, that's just an insane, almost unimaginable figure. We're talking hundreds of billions of dollars today. This wasn't just about repayment. No. This number was designed to absolutely cripple the German economy for decades to come. And you can totally see how people felt about it in the political cartoons from that time. I mean, look at this. Germany is this poor little figure getting completely crushed by this massive weight of reparations. That feeling, that sense of being unfairly burdened, it's going to fuel a lot of anger and instability down the road. Okay, so punishing Germany was a huge part of it for sure. But these post-war treaties did way more than that. They fundamentally redrew the map of the world, and in doing so, they triggered the collapse of ancient empires. Right, so the German Empire wasn't the only domino to fall. Its main allies, the Austro-Hungarian and the Ottoman empires, were also facing a complete reckoning. So what exactly happened to them? Well, first, let's look at the Austro-Hungarian Empire. This thing was a massive, sprawling power in Central Europe for centuries, and it was just completely dismantled, gone. And from its ashes, you get a whole host of brand new nations popping up: Austria, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and Yugoslavia. And just take a look at this map. You can actually see the new reality taking shape. Poland is back on the map. You've got countries like Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania showing up in the north. The Balkans are totally different. We're not talking about a few little border adjustments here. This is a fundamentally new Europe. All right, so moving a bit further south, the Ottoman Empire met a pretty similar fate, but there was a twist. Instead of creating new, independent countries out of its territories in the Middle East, the Allies came up with something called the Mandate System. Basically, this just meant that Britain and France got to take control of these lands, supposedly just to administer them until they were ready to rule themselves. And check out this map to see how it all got carved up. France got control over Syria and Lebanon. Britain was handed the mandates for Palestine and Mesopotamia, which, by the way, it would rename Iraq. And here's the problem. These new borders, drawn by European powers, often totally ignored the ethnic and religious realities on the ground, setting the stage for all kinds of future conflict. So when you put these two maps right next to each other, the sheer scale of this transformation is just wow. It's undeniable. We're talking from the Baltic Sea all the way down to the Arabian Peninsula. The post-war treaties didn't just end a war. They erased old worlds and drew the first rough draft of the world we live in today. When you step back and look at the big picture, the ultimate results of the war and all these treaties becomes crystal clear. It was the death of the old imperial order. Think about it. In just a few short years, four of the world's major empires, the German, the Austro-Hungarian, the Ottoman, and the Russian, they just, poof, vanished from the map, collapsing under the incredible weight of war and revolution. The German Empire became the democratic but really unstable Weimar Republic. As we've seen, the Austro-Hungarian Empire shattered into new states. The Ottoman Empire was reduced to modern-day Turkey, with its Arab lands becoming those European mandates. And the Russian Empire? Well, it was completely transformed by civil war into the Soviet Union. So a whole new world order was created. You've got new nations, new borders, and a lot of new grievances. The treaties of 1919 definitively ended the First World War. No doubt about it. But they also planted the seeds of the Second, which leaves us with this one big, lingering question. Was this really a peace at all, or just a 20-year truce?